My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. No, I am Elias Pablo Soriano, and I am the vocalist for Nonpoint. I was born in New Jersey, but my mother moved down to South Florida with me and my brother after her and my father split when I was about 2 years old. Then I stayed in South Florida through elementary, middle, high school, and college. And then from there, I traveled to Tampa and lived there for a little while. And then back to South Florida where I met Rob. And it was there that I was actually hosting at a restaurant, and the original bass player for Nonpoint was a server at that restaurant. And I had just come from waiting tables and singing at this Italian restaurant in Italian to old ladies to make better tips. So I was doing that at this new restaurant hosting, and he heard my voice, invited me to come hang out with them at their rehearsal space, and encouraged me to pick up the microphone and sing, and I was invited into the band. Yeah, it was Happy Birthday in Italian. Yeah, right now? Yeah. Tanti auguri a te, tanti auguri a te, tanti auguri cara mia, tanti auguri a te. This is my first band. It's my first ever band. So I hadn't been in that kind of music environment. I had only done show choir and Broadway stuff at the tail end of my high school years. I was part of a performing arts program in Fort Lauderdale, Dillard School of Performing Arts. Shout out to the Panthers. That was my first just introduction to doing something with my voice in front of lots of people. I was sitting down in front of the washer and dryer in the rehearsal space that they were at the time. And I was sitting there for a while, and I had already, for about a month and a half, 2 months, been just going to that rehearsal space just to hang out and listen to them. And Hector, the bass player, had already told Rob that I had a voice. And I think at about a month of me just hanging out, Rob had had enough of not actually hearing what I was going to do. And then he was like, "Hey, man, so what's up? You going to sing with us or what?" And like literally said that. And I was like, "Oh. Okay, yeah, sure, man." And I picked up the microphone, and it was so funny because I think he had already said something to Hector before that, because Hector was picking me up and bringing me to the rehearsal spot so we could all hang out. And on the way there that day, Hector was like, "Hey, man, you should do something with us today." And I'm like, "Oh, what am I going to do?" And he was like, here's the rehearsal tape. And he put the tape in the tape deck and started playing the song. And there was a napkin on the floorboard, and there was a pen in the console. So I grabbed a pen and I was listening to it. And in the, 15-minute drive that it took us to get to the rehearsal spot, I wrote the first couple of lyrics of Head Games, which would eventually become Mind Trip. If I'm not mistaken, I'm almost positive that it was that one. Rob was definitely a strong-minded businessman, to say the least. He at the time he was really focused on the band making it, and us doing something just outside of local gigs. At the time he was to put it in perspective, this is pre-internet. Not pre-internet, but just pre-social media. We did have I believe, a MySpace at the time. Rob he had a master spiral binder, and Rob would sit at the merch table and ask people to put their names and addresses down in that spiral notebook. And then before every show, a couple weeks before the show, he would go to Kinko's, have them cut like 1,000 flyers, and he would sit there and hand address every single flyer and stamp every single flyer and mail all those out, with the little bit of money that we'd make from the previous show, if we made any money at all. And then that was like the master social media street team book for us that we just kept adding to. He did it the old school way back then. My first gig ever was at Rose's. It was at Rose's in South Beach. That's where Rob did the bait and switch. If I'm not mistaken, I believe the show was supposed to be at 9:30 or 10, and Rob told the singer that it was going to be 30 minutes later. And it just, in Rob's defense, the singer was infamous for showing up minutes before the gig. And he always encouraged, everybody else was always encouraged and asked to come a little bit early, rightfully so. So that day, he came right before he was supposed to instead of 20, 30 minutes prior. Had he come 20, 30 minutes prior, like the rest of the band, he would have made that gig. And this probably would have never happened. It probably would have happened, you know. Music for me was you know, the same way. I think it is really for everybody. It was influenced early on by my parents and what they listened to, because that's what was getting played loud in the house and frequently. So a lot of classic rock, a lot of Motown, a lot of old school R&B. So a lot of yacht rock in the house, and a lot of jazz. So everything from Christopher Cross, James Taylor, Bad Company, Kansas, Journey, Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, Billy Joel, a lot of big songwriters. But then in the same breath, Earth, Wind and Fire, and, you know, Sam Cooke, the Commodores, and Lionel Richie, and all that. But then it was Jazz Sundays, where it was Weather Report and Spyro Gyra, and you know, a lot of those South Florida vibes. You know, growing up in South Florida, a lot of different cultures, so a lot of different music. And I think it was either the first or last Sunday of every month was Riverwalk Jazz Fest, where they would set up a bunch of stages, and you would go from stage to stage up the Riverwalk listening to jazz bands play. And Jaco Pastorius and his sons all had homes and would pop up in little jazz bars all the time and just start jamming out of nowhere. So much so that there was a small park next to one of the apartments that I lived at when I was living in South Florida with my wife. Right across the street was Jaco Pastorius Park. Rashid and I are my daughter says that we're like Key and Peele, and we do have a comedic timing, a bit of a brotherhood, really. Rashid, I think more so than anyone else in the band, had a similar type of upbringing and open-minded music taste, and then outside of what our cultures normally, you know, played in, you know, outside of maybe, you know, Journey, which all Puerto Ricans love. Latin Americans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, you know, their like of American music is limited, just like it would be. Same with the African American community. You know, there's those pockets where we all kind of like Michael McDonald. We all kind of like, you know, Journey, and those, you know, those amazing bands that, you know, you just can't deny that they're amazing. But I think Rashid, especially with what he likes and what I like, our musical tastes and what we were doing and how we were dressing and where we shopped and what we listened to when we were growing up is almost identical. It's like, it's weird. I feel like he was growing up the exact same way that I was growing up on my side. So when we met, it like immediately, you know, we clicked, and we're brothers. Outside of us choosing to kind of stay in a lane, I think really more so with our message, we're a bit, not a bit all over the place. We grow with our music and our tastes, and with the lineup changes, it brings a new style to the band musically every single time. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it does. Now more than ever, we're finding a bit of a groove with the business the music, and our fans are so supportive and have stayed so supportive through all the changes. And because they understand the message, they see it the same way that we do. It's like the same reason that everything gets split equally between the 5 members, even the newest member, Jason. It's like when we go in to write, we let everybody pull their weight. That's where the style comes in. It's like I don't want to write a guitar riff. I'd love to write a guitar riff, but I don't want to. I want my guy to write something that inspires me, that he loves to play, that he's proficient playing, so he can do it with his eyes closed. And I can enjoy riding that wave and being almost surprised by what I'm hearing, just because it's coming from somebody else's head. It's like if I'm writing the guitar riff too, then I'm hearing something it's that one-minded idea, and I feel like that's what breaks the mold outside of what other bands are doing in Nonpoint. It's even against advice of other people, we want all 5 members to write that song together. We don't want one guy to write it. So, but and in that same breath, Rob and I being in this band the longest, and knowing that lane that I spoke about and that message that I talk about is something that makes it the Nonpoint song. So by running it through that filter, even with a new member, that's how we keep things always feeling Nonpoint. It's like, yeah, it sounds new, but it still sounds like Nonpoint. That's what we're looking for. Where our longevity comes in is not only do we have a plan, but we have a fan base that understands it and keeps supporting it, down to, our highest highs, supporting us when we need them to back a song, and our lowest lows when we need them to save us from the destruction of all of our gear because our trailer flew off the back of our bus. That was an interesting day. We're driving through the mountains of Tennessee on our way, I believe it was to Blue Ridge Rock Festival. It was a new driver, brand new driver, never driven the band before. Everyone was sleeping except our drum tech, Mikey. All of a sudden, Mikey, who was in the front lounge, hears our driver go, "Oh my God, oh my God." And Mikey goes, "What's wrong?" He goes, "The trailer just came off the bus." And he went, "What?" And he goes, "I just saw the trailer come off the bus." And he goes, "Oh my God." And he runs in to tell everyone in the bunk alley at the time. Angel Graves was our tour manager, and he opens up Angel's curtain and he says, "The trailer just flew off the back of the bus." And we all heard him say that. So all of a sudden, all the curtains start to open up. Everybody starts to get their clothes on, and Angel comes out, and we're still going down the road because the driver was in such shock that he couldn't believe that had happened, because the only reason that he noticed it had happened is because out of the corner of his eye, in the side view mirror, he's noticed some movement, and he had just passed a group of state troopers who were dealing with an accident that had just happened on that same bump that made our trailer come off, where a bass boat came off the back of a truck. So when our trailer came off, it started barreling at the state troopers who were on the side of the road, filling out the report for the accident report that just happened 45 minutes before we hit that same bump. So trailer comes off, it goes off the side of the road, goes down the side of this embankment hill. Thank God it wasn't completely off the side and down the side of the mountain, but it flapped on its side, and thankfully it didn't stay on its wheels, because that's kind of what dug it in and slowed it to a stop. So all the gear got thrown over to the sides. It was a big whoop-de-doo. So then we get it back onto the bus, and Angel, our tour manager at the time, starts asking all the questions that we really didn't have a lot of answers for. He was like, "So, you guys have all the serial numbers and all the stuff for the stuff so we could start the insurance claim?" And I look over and I was like, "We don't have insurance on the gear." He literally, and this is in the documentary, which is, goes to our fans. He looks over at us and he goes, so it was a good lesson learned, because now we have insurance on our gear. But thankfully, we had really good cases. But at the time, we didn't know what we were going to be opening up. So we had our content creator, Francesca, out with us, and she immediately started documenting everything, because we didn't know what we were going to be able to receive or whether we could get something back from the insurance claim on the trailer. We were scrambling a bit. We thought of the idea of putting together a documentary, and then at the end of the documentary, asking our fans to kind of chip in and see what they could do by us taking a shirt and selling it at slightly an increased price. We felt like if we could sell a couple hundred of them, we would have enough money to right ourselves and get back on tour, just in case, God forbid, anything happened, which, God forbid, nothing too terrible happened. But just to put it into perspective, our fans came to bat for us, and I think we raised in a matter of, I want to say, a week, it was like 25, 30 grand for us to be able to replace that gear that was broken, and the lights and everything. And then they got a cool shirt that normally was $35 for that particular run. We did it for $50, just so that way they could walk away with something, but then also to feel good about helping the band. And they really came to bat, like way above what we expected, in a way faster time than we ever imagined. Yeah, it was so funny. Angel was like, "So, what's your insurance?" And he was like, "I was like, well, I got insurance." And he went, and then just kept writing. I was like, "Oh, yeah." Well, Rob's, I think that's self-explanatory. You know, he's been the guy that's been around with me since the very beginning. Him and I have lived together. Rob has worked under me at a air duct cleaning company where I was a general manager for a customer service department, and sending out texts. And he was one of my customer service reps. I got him a job there. You're welcome, Rob. We also too lived in a couple apartments together, and he was the guy that him and I tore up our lease, said sayonara, put our stuff in his storage, and literally just went on the road for 18 months straight, and been together basically ever since. Adam is he's the quiet, cuddly teddy bear of the band, that I would say one of the kindest hearts, one of the best dads I've ever seen, and a team player. And that's really what it's a testament to his longevity in our band. He's been the only bass player since Ken bowed out, and it's because he's so easy to work with. He's so fast to pick things up, pretty much fix anything, climb anything, ride any kind of vehicle. But if not, he's willing to do it, and he's always basically doing all the X Games shit off the damn counter. It's pretty much Adam in a nutshell. He's the I'll go anywhere, I'll try anything once. Definitely the most adventurous eater of us all. Always doing the cool stuff when it comes to ordering, and a beast on stage. Jason, he's the newest member. Jason is another really fast learner. Outside of Phil Demmel, I've never seen somebody pick up music so fast. Like, he learned 15 of our songs, I want to say in like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, just pumping them out, maybe 2 months. But it was still a ridiculous, unreasonable amount of time that we gave him to learn it, and he learned it. And, it's the work ethic. Everybody always, they're, "Oh, you guys are the hardest working band in the industry," and blah, 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 blah. And that's what we look for, is people that come in and get it. And he's one of the ones that came in and got it. He was good about doing the uniform thing, because we wanted to really push into changing the brand up and looking like a team. And, that's why we gave him an equal share, because we wanted him to feel like that team. He was easygoing when it came to learning the music. He's good about writing music. He's constantly pumping out new music, so we have lots of music to pick from. He's another really great dad, and all around cool guy. Rashid, I feel artistically and performance-wise is just a monster on stage. I think he brings that visual, the energy, the quality is so high. Our blend is unbelievable. Even back to our Caribbean Queen days, we really can find each other in a room and lock. And that's stuff that, you know, I learned back in my show choir days, and to be able to find somebody and have somebody in the band that, you know, can help you ring a room with a harmony and immediately pick it up, or he'll be hitting something and I'll find a harmony to it, or we'll both know an old R&B song that all of a sudden he starts singing, or I start singing and he jumps in with the high falsetto harmony. It's like that kind of, you know, talent on stage, and having that in the band is unreal. You know, on top of all of that, he basically plays every instrument. He writes beats and loops. He can sing, he can rap, you know, he plays guitar, he plays keyboard, he plays drums, he plays bass, he can do a drum machine, he plays trombone, he plays trumpet, and I only play like one of those things. He's a real blessing to have in the band. Underdog, it turned into a bit of a love letter from the band to the last 20 years of our career. Being independent now, I think Underdog also too stylistically has a lot, if not all, of what Nonpoint does, performance wise, and all the different voices and styles that I have in my vocals, and everything that we do musically. And then there's, you know, what our fans feel like. You know, they've always supported the band, and I know it's they feel that when they listen to the lyrics and they hear this song. I feel like they can tell that I'm talking to the rest of the world with them behind me, you know, really pushing and supporting us. And I feel like now more than ever, especially now being independent, that we couldn't be bigger underdogs. The growth that we've had over the last 3.5 years, having rebranded the band, having dropped some of our most and highest received music since Bullet with a Name, you know, it just really shows that between, you know, the kinship in the band, between the love and support of our fan base and the industry as a whole, you know, I got to give credit to, you know, all of the, you know, Jose's and Shannon's and everyone else over at XM, Octane, and all of the radio stations for years, and, you know, JJO and Madison, JRR, just everyone in across the entire radio world, you know, Green Bay, and it's just so many, that we could find ourselves 20 plus years later, you know, playing at 3:30 in the afternoon on the main stage at Rockville, you know, the biggest festival, rock festival that's ever happened in the United States, that late in my career. So, you know, I feel blessed. I really do. So much gratitude for the universe getting me to here. It's something that I asked for. I remember coming off stage, the first performance that I ever did with Dillard School of the Performing Arts, thinking to myself, and even silent prayer going, you know what, God, if I could just make just enough to get by and do this for the rest of my life, that's all I'm asking for. 20 plus years later, and here I am still doing it. It's the only job that I've had since I started Nonpoint. It's the only band that I've ever been since I've started this. So to be doing this long, amen. What else can I ask for? Right now, I think we're focused on scaling and really, really getting the brand and taking care of the brand like it should be taken care of. That comes with, you know, putting the right teams around us. That comes with doing the right types of shows and tours. That means getting overseas more. That means putting out more music at even a faster speed than we've been literally promising our fans during this entire process. But with all of the opportunity and all of the touring that we've been, you know, getting offered, we've almost had to put that part of the plan on the back burner. So we want to get back to being able to tour smarter, so that way we can have an opportunity to start dropping more music, because I feel like the new music is really painting a new picture of who we are becoming. And our show is, I don't think has ever been better than it is right now. And our show has always been supported and revered almost, and I don't want to toot my own horn, but people really love to come see us live. And for me to be able to look 20 years later and go, I'm putting on the best show that I've ever put on, I want to do that for a little while. And that means I got to get music out, which means we need time to get in and suss these songs out. So we want to start carving out time to do that for our fans and for ourselves, so we can get the creative juices flowing and we can start dropping more songs like Underdog. Rob Rusha. Rob Rusha, he's our jack of all trades, and he was one of the very first ones that saw the value and the big picture when we were moving into a more independent route. His care and love for the members of the band run so deep because relationships have run so long. We've known Rob for 20 plus years. He's just probably the most trusted member of our team. About 3.5, 4 years ago, when we decided to become independent, him and Francesca Ludicar, shout out to Frankie, Frankie encouraged us also too to take an independent route, saw a lot of the inner workings, saw a lot of the work that we were doing, and felt like we could take a DIY route. We saw an opportunity to take that route, and found ourselves coming out with our first release, doing better than Bullet with a Name did on the charts. Between Rob Rusha and Frankie were the ones to help us, make those dreams a reality. And then Rob Rusha really became, really grabbed the wheel, took us in the direction of making the entities, making sure that we had the accountants, making sure that we were filing properly, and really running everything through a fine-tooth comb, watching all of our dollars to the penny, and helping us at least infrastructure properly, so that way we could get to the point where we could start scaling, bringing on better teams, bringing on more people to help us, treat the brand how we always felt like the brand should be and can be treated. For the last 3.5, 4 years, we've done some amazing things. We've had some struggles and some obstacles. I definitely see how labels have the same kind of issues that I ran into, and have the same kind of obstacles. And now it's in our lap. We live or die by our independence, and we live or die by our decisions and by our budgets, because now it all rests on us. So, with that freedom also comes a lot of responsibility. And I think with people like Rusha, we've been able to take on that responsibility. He's very even keeled. He's never the type to get too upset. He's a really, really great leader.